Alright, hey guys, it's Slippy here. So the UFC has announced four or so more pretty big fights here recently, at least the last couple days. I made a video talking about a couple fights yesterday. I guess I missed some, or I just put the video out too early because just today we had two announcements. At least we had Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker announced, as well as Brendan Allen versus Nasruddin Imavov, one lightweight fight, one middleweight fight. And then over here I have stuff pulled up. A couple more fights that I missed yesterday. Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov 2, the rematch. And Gilbert Burns is taking on Sean Brady at welterweight, and I think that's a fight night main event. So I want to talk about these fights because I think they're all very noteworthy. I think most people will be interested in all of these. I think people will be interested in all these, and we'll just get right into it. I'm going to start with Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. Lightweight is kind of it's the star division in the UFC. That's the division that most people care the most about. Nobody cares about Mateusz Gamrot, though. That's a bummer for him, but everybody likes Dan Hooker. But I am going to go with Mateusz Gamrot in this fight. I don't really see a way Dan Hooker wins. He would have to just knock Gamrot out early. And even though Gamrot seems really chinny and he gets dropped all the time, the dude doesn't tend to get finished. You know, Jalen Turner hurt him over and over and over again, couldn't finish him. Fiziev, I would say, hits probably harder than Dan Hooker, and he didn't finish him, although Mateusz Gamrot used telekinesis and blew Rafael Fiziev's knee up, so there's that. Mateusz Gamrot, he is on a 3-fight win streak right now. Starting with that short notice fight against Jalen Turner that a lot of people thought Jalen Turner won. Close fight. I thought Mateusz Gamrot won, and I thought he looked really good in that fight considering it was on short notice. And then he went on to fight Rafael Fiziev. Again, in that fight, it ended controversially because Fiziev just got injured. But I still think Mateusz Gamrot looked really good in the fight leading up to the end of it. His scrambles are just amazing. The dude has, I would say, he has the best scrambles in the lightweight division. Wrestling scrambles, that is. His wrestling's really good. His chain wrestling, really good. He's not very dangerous. He doesn't have vicious ground and pound. He doesn't have a super crazy submission game. He's more of a control guy, but it's hard to scramble with him. We saw that in his fight with Arman Tsarukyan, where he won, again, controversially. Mateusz Gamrot's kind of the king of controversial decisions and just controversial wins in general. That's probably why a lot of people don't like him, and he doesn't have the most exciting style. But he is very good. Most recently coming off of a win against RDA. Not the most impressive performance. He got dropped early twice, I believe. Rocked really bad. Survived it, went on to just wrestle RDA. RDA's been weak to wrestlers pretty much his whole career, or at least his entire post-title run career, you could say. He's been very weak to wrestlers, especially welterweight wrestlers, but Mateusz Gamrot at lightweight pretty easily out-wrestled RDA after getting hurt early. Not the best performance, especially with how old RDA is, but I still would probably pick him to beat Dan Hooker. I think RDA and Dan Hooker at this point in their careers are actually on very similar levels. I mean, RDA not long ago was coming off of a great win against Renato Moicano where he beat the brakes off of him. Regardless of whether or not Moicano took that on short notice, that's a really good opponent to absolutely dominate for an entire fight. Dan Hooker, though, he's on a 2-fight win streak. And he hasn't fought in a while. He hasn't fought since July 2023, so a year. He's been out for a year, which makes sense because his last fight was against Jalen Turner. He got the W. Kind of similar, actually, to the Gamrot fight in the sense that it was very close, and I think some people think it could have gone the other way. I feel like Dan Hooker pretty clearly won, even though he took a lot of damage in that fight. The reason he won that fight is because Dan Hooker doesn't really break, and Jalen Turner, I think, has shown lately in his fights that he kind of wilts when things get difficult, and he showed that in the Dan Hooker fight. When Dan Hooker gets beat up, he grits down and he fights back. When Jalen Turner gets beat up, he kind of shells up and wants it to be over. You can kind of tell. Regardless, it was a really fun fight, and it was a good performance by Dan Hooker. And it was great to see that he still had a chin and he was still tough as nails after coming off of some pretty rough losses, especially getting brutalized by Arnold Allen in the first round only 3 fights ago. My problem with picking Dan Hooker in this fight, though, is mostly just, so he's a striker. That's he has a huge advantage in the striking. But Mateusz Gamrot is weird on the feet. He moves weird. He's hard to hit. He just has a strange boxing style. I say he's hard to hit, but he gets dropped all the time, so maybe he's not that hard to hit. But I just feel like he's going to be able to get the takedowns. I think Dan Hooker isn't fast at all. Dan Hooker's very slow. His hand speed is very slow. I think it's much slower than it used to be, and it was never really that fast. He doesn't have crazy knockout power. He has a lot of thud, I guess. It looks like he has a lot of thud, and he can hurt people, but it's more volume than it is knockout power. And I don't think he has the wrestling defense to stop Mateusz Gamrot's takedowns. And I don't think he can chain wrestle or scramble with Mateusz Gamrot and get back to his feet. Mateusz Gamrot is not Claudio Puelles. Okay, Mateusz Gamrot has good control. He's strong. He has crazy good cardio. I think he could pretty easily out-wrestle and dominate Dan Hooker for the entire duration of the fight. The only chance I think I would give Dan Hooker in this fight is if he lands one of those sweet knees up the middle when Gamrot shoots a takedown, and that could happen, but it's not likely. I wouldn't bet on it. So I'm going to go with Gamrot, 30-27 decision of that fight. Sorry, that went on for a while. The other fight I want to talk about, next one, Brendan Allen versus Nassourdine Imavov. I think this fight's going to be really competitive. I think it's going to be a really good one. I could be wrong, but I think Nassourdine Imavov is a guy that I feel like everybody kind of understands how good he is after his last few fights. Whereas Brendan Allen, I think, is still a bit underrated. Some people probably overrate him. I'd say the vast majority of the fan base, though, kind of underrates Brendan Allen and doesn't quite understand how good he is yet. But it's also weird because it's middleweight. Like, Brendan Allen got dominated by Sean Strickland, finished by Sean Strickland. He got knocked out by Sean Strickland. And Strickland doesn't knock anybody out unless you're Abu Smagomedov. But yeah, he got knocked out by Sean Strickland, and he got knocked out by Chris Curtis. But then he submitted Paul Craig, and he submitted Andre Muniz somehow. And yeah, Brendan Allen doesn't make sense. Let me pull up Brendan Allen's stats real quick. I feel like Brendan Allen is a guy that beats you at what you're best at. I'm not good at typing. That's just what he does. Like, he's on a crazy win streak too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's on a 7-fight win streak since he lost to Chris Curtis. That's more than I thought. Beats Sam Alvey by rear naked choke. Nobody cares. Beats Jacob Malkoun by decision. Nobody cares. No disrespect to those guys. Christoph Jotko, rear naked choke. That's not terrible. That's better than Strickland beat Christoph Jotko. And then, yeah, okay, he submitted Andre Muniz. He submitted Bruno Silva. He submitted Paul Craig. And then he got a split decision in his rematch with Chris Curtis. I actually forgot about that fight. I'm such a casual. I totally forgot that they had a rematch. Split decision. Anyways, he was on a 3-fight sub streak, and 2 of those are Paul Craig and Andre Muniz. So his grappling is extremely underrated. I guess what I was trying to get to. That was kind of a big waste of time. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think Brendan Allen's really good. Although he was getting outstruck by Andre Muniz, and that's not good. But Nassourdine Imavov, let me just get back on track. Nassourdine Imavov, high level middleweight. Definitely, I would say one of the best middleweights in the world. He's looked great in pretty much all of his fights. Even the ones that he's lost, I thought he looked good. I thought he looked good against Strickland, all things considered. Going into that fight, I think people still thought Strickland was kind of not that good. Prior to getting the belt, a lot of people... Strickland was funny, and we all loved him, but a lot of people didn't actually think Strickland was that good, especially after he got knocked out by Alex Pereira, and then he lost to Jared Cannonier. But when he came in on short notice, fought Nassourdine Imavov, Imavov lost clearly, but I thought he looked pretty good for the most part in that fight. It was just a step up in competition too fast. He wasn't ready for it. And he didn't look great against... why can't I remember? I know his name. Roman Dolidze. He didn't look great. I can't believe I forgot Roman Dolidze. He did not look very good against Roman Dolidze. That was a terrible fight. But granted, Roman Dolidze is a guy that hits like a truck. Even though he sucks at striking, he hits really hard. And he is terrifying on the ground. So I'll give him a little bit of slack for that. He looked good in his last fight against Jared Cannonier did, Nasruddin Imavov. That is ending with controversy because that happens in the UFC all the time now. Was kind of a fake finish. It shouldn't have been called off, but regardless, he was kind of pulling ahead toward the end of that fight. Can't say whether or not he would have won because anything could have happened in that 5th round, but it was 2-2 when they ended the fight, I would say. And he looked good. I haven't given a pick yet, so I'm going to pick... As much as I think Brendan Allen is underrated, I am going to pick Nasruddin Imavov to get it done, I think. I feel like he's a lot better than Brendan Allen on the feet. He's significantly better. Nasruddin Imavov has looked really slick on the feet recently in his fights. He's fast. He's got good power. He has good volume. Maybe not the best cardio, but he looked really good in the later rounds against Jared Cannonier last time out, whereas he kind of tired out against Strickland. So maybe he's changed his diet. Maybe he's doing more cardio. Maybe he's dipping his hand into the tainted gummy bear jar, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I think he's just got way better striking, and even though Brendan Allen is shown to have a really, really good submission game, Nasruddin Imavov, I think, has the takedown defense and just the wrestling skill in general to keep it on the feet, and if he keeps it on the feet, I think he can pretty safely piece up Brendan Allen and win like a 29-28. Maybe he gets rocked in one of the rounds, or maybe he gets controlled for a little bit. I think it'll go to a decision. I don't see Nasruddin Imavov finishing Brendan Allen. He doesn't tend to get finishes. If anybody's going to get a finish, it's going to be Brendan Allen because he generally does get finishes. But I'm going to go with Imavov in that fight. Another fight I wanted to talk about was, sorry, Alexander Volkov versus Cyril Gane 2, or Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov, I suppose. It's about time, Cyril Gane, that you're fighting again. You've been sitting out like a chump. Alexander Volkov, a total giga chad. He just beat Pavlovich, who was a terrifying individual until he got slept by Aspinall and then dominated every single round by Alexander Volkov. Volkov looked great in that fight. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but he fought Pavlovich about as well as you can fight Pavlovich without just knocking him out right away, and without wrestling, I guess. Like, he fought the perfect game plan in a striking match with Pavlovich. He used his range, he used his teep kicks over and over again. Teep kick, kind of stuck behind a jab, but it was definitely more the teep kicks than it was the jab. Body kicks. He knows how to use his kicks, and he knows how to use his range to stay away from big power punchers like Pavlovich, and he made Pavlovich look like he never really fought. He made Pavlovich look like he was Derek Lewis. Except Derek Lewis actually knocked out Alexander Volkov. Pavlovich did not. And he embarrassed Pavlovich so bad that he pushed him afterward, and they were like friends going into that fight. So yeah, Volkov, he's been looking great lately. I think he's dominated Alexander Romanov, finished him early. He has a pretty close win over Martin Tybura, which doesn't look that good. Finished Rosenstrike really quickly, and then goes out there and dominates Pavlovich. Looked great, and he smoked Tai Tuivasa as well. Cyril Gane hasn't really fought lately. He beat Sergey Spivak, and it was a good win, but it's Sergey Spivak. It's not Alexander Volkov. The first time they fought, it was super close, and I feel like Alexander Volkov's gotten a lot better since then, and I don't think Cyril Gane's gotten that much better. The reason I'm picking Alexander Volkov in this fight, just so you know, and my main reason for picking him is because I feel like he just wants it more. I trust Alexander Volkov is in the gym constantly training and trying to get better. I feel like Cyril Gane is just kind of getting his money and enjoying being a celebrity. He's filming a movie now, which is why he turned down his fight. He turned down fighting Aspinall because he's doing a movie. Which, I mean, if he's doing a movie, why is he taking this fight, actually? I hadn't even thought about that. I haven't thought about that till just now. He said that he wouldn't fight Aspinall for the interim belt because he's filming a movie, but he's going to fight Alexander Volkov now. I think he's just scared to fight Aspinall. Coward. But yeah, I think Volkov's head is in the game more. I think Cyril Gane he's young in the sport. He doesn't have that many fights. He hasn't taken that much damage, but I feel like he's already got one foot out the door. I just don't think he cares that much about being the best. And I think Volkov does. So I feel like Volkov's going to go out there, and when it gets tough, I think he's going to push harder than Cyril Gane. Even though I think Cyril Gane has more talent, I think he has more potential. I think he has the potential to very easily dispose of Volkov. Cyril Gane is a freak athlete. He's fast. He's got great striking. He has great technique. If he put his mind to it, he could probably become a really good grappler, but I just don't think he cares, and I think Volkov does. So I'm going with Volkov, probably by decision as well. It'd be sweet to see him get a finish. And yeah, I think Volkov's going to win. I think it's going to be a close fight, though, by decision. And I think that he's going to win, and then he's going to fight the winner of Aspinall versus Blades for the interim belt, because Jon Jones is still going to be sitting out for Stipe. I bet Jon Jones is still going to sit out. He's still going to be waiting for Stipe. He's still going to refuse to fight Aspinall after Aspinall beats Blades, if he does. And Aspinall's going to defend his interim belt against the winner of this fight, which I think will be Alexander Volkov. Anyways, last fight I want to talk about is Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. I'll try to make this one quick because this video is too long. I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns. I think Sean Brady is a terrible striker. I think he's not a very smart fighter at times. I can't really get past his performance against Bilal Muhammad. He looked terrified of Bilal Muhammad. This guy gave Bilal Muhammad a TKO, and that's just kind of unforgivable. Granted, he was an undefeated fighter coming up, and he talked about this on Ariel Helwani's show, that I guess the pressure of being undefeated got to him, and he froze up in the moment with a crowd that was very anti-USA because it was in Abu Dhabi, I believe. And so he froze up, he says, and then he says it'll never happen again. And I do believe him. I don't think he'll ever freeze up again. I think that was probably a really good learning experience for him. But the dude gave Bilal Muhammad a TKO, man. Bilal Muhammad has 0 knockdowns in the UFC, and he TKO'd Sean Brady. Gilbert Burns hits like a truck. You know, Gilbert Burns dropped Kamaru Usman. Gilbert Burns, he dropped Kamaru Usman. And he finished Neil Magny in like just a few minutes, you know? And Gilbert Burns, he's beat Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns has beat a lot of guys. He's had a really boring win over Stephen Thompson. Let's see. Gilbert Burns is on a 2-5 losing streak. You know, he got finished by Jack Del Maddalena, but Jack Del Maddalena is a super dangerous striker. Sean Brady's not. He lost to Bilal Muhammad. That was mostly on the feet. Sean Brady's not going to strike with him, and he had one arm in that fight. Beats Jorge Masvidal, not a great performance, but he beat him. Beats Neil Magny, that was a great performance. Lost to Hamzat, but he went to war with Hamzat. Yeah, this is a terrible video. I'm just rambling nonstop. I just don't even know what to say about this fight. I think Gilbert Burns is going to knock Sean Brady out. I think he hits too hard. I think Sean Brady is probably a slightly better grappler. I know people hype up Gilbert Burns grappling a lot. I think Gilbert Burns has really good jiu-jitsu. Sean Brady, I think, is probably a better overall grappler. If you count the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling, you count the control, the dominance on the ground, the ability to hold somebody down, the actual takedowns that are being shot. I think Sean Brady overall is better, and I could actually see Sean Brady getting a submission on Gilbert Burns. I think Sean Brady has shown better finishing ability on the ground than Gilbert Burns generally throughout his career. Gilbert Burns hasn't really submitted a lot of guys in the UFC. Outside of Neil Magny is the only one that comes to my mind right now. But I just think Gilbert Burns can keep it on the feet and absolutely tune up Sean Brady and finish him because Gilbert Burns hits so hard. He's also super chinny though, so maybe Sean Brady will just like land a jab and Gilbert Burns is going to go to sleep. Who knows? But I'm going Gilbert Burns. I'm going with Gilbert Burns by first round knockout. So yeah, that's what I think about those fights. Sorry that video was long and I'm all rambly. I'll get better, hopefully. Let me know what you think about the fights in the comments, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.